right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us today for this second of our renewed education series. Last time we talked about, what did we talk about last time? I'm losing it at the moment. But today we're going to talk about how to pivot your business in a crisis situation, how to reimagine, reinvent, refocus, and pivot your business. Obviously, we're going through a crisis with COVID-19, and it's a great opportunity for us to hear from some of our members who have had to pivot their businesses and talk about what they did, how they're staying successful, the challenges that are still being faced on a daily basis, and how to move forward. So it'll be a panel type discussion, and we'll start. So I'm going to recognize, before we get started, Jennifer Moriarta from School of Rock, and Pete Crouse from iPie, and Vipul Seth from Copperleaf Event Center and the new Roots Restaurant. So we'll do a little quick introduction with everybody, and we'll get into it. So Jennifer, since you are on my top left in my Hollywood squares here, I'll let you start with a quick introduction.
Okay, my name's Jennifer Moriarta, and I am the owner at the School of Rock in Broomfield. School of Rock is a franchise, so I'm one of many owners. There are approximately 250 School of Rock locations worldwide. And I've been at this school for about 3 or 4 years now. Prior to that, my background is in electrical engineering and computer science. That's what my degree is in, but I always had an interest in music, and somehow fell into this amazing world of music and School of Rock, and now into the world of having to run a music school during a global pandemic.
Great. Thanks for being here. And I was having some electronic feedback last night on my sound system. I should have come and found you. You probably could have fixed it for me. Pete,
I was working the check-in table.
Yeah, that's right, you were. Pete, introduce yourself.
Here we go.
There you go.
It's Peter Crouse, and I'm a Broomfield native and own Infinitus Pie. I was the second guy to franchise Blackjack Pizza back in 1987, and have owned 10 different pizza stores over the course of 35 years. So,
great. Thanks for being here with us, Pete. Vipul, I'll go to you next.
Okay, I was able to unmute myself. So just like Jennifer, I was in software engineering. I was a software engineer for 20 years, and then it ended in 2014. When I was fired from my job in Level 3 Communications, I pissed my seniors. But then we have been catering since 2002. That started off as a kind of a side business, just because my wife Madhu, she wanted to do something, and she started it, and then it grew into a full-time business. And then we opened Copperleaf Event Center in 2014, end of 2014. And then in March this year, COVID happened. And then when that happened, it took us some time to realize that we are not coming out of it soon. And that's how Roots was born. Like, we came up with the idea in June, and then we are open within a few weeks after that.
Perfect. All right. We'll hear more of your story coming up in just a minute. And Christina, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Christina Surpernott. I am a realtor here locally with Remax Momentum, Broomfield native myself, and I currently am serving as one of your vice chairs on the Broomfield Chamber Board currently. So, founder of Hype as well, our young professional group, and I'm really excited to listen to how you guys have pivoted your businesses. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Christina. Evelyn, tell us a little about you.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Logan with Logan Kirby Consulting, and I work with businesses to basically bring more money to the bottom line and get them ready for that eventual exit from their business, whether that be a sale or have a group of employees take over, or to have one of their children take over, neither of which work most of the time, but the sale is usually the best way. And I'm, to be fair, I'm on the board of the Lafayette Chamber of Commerce. And when I saw this come through, I thought the content would be really important to our members also. And so I wanted to participate. So thank you for letting me do that.
Awesome. And Vicki Trumbo actually reached out to me and said, you know, this sounds really interesting. Can you give us a debrief? And so I think between you and me, Evelyn, we can tell her everything she'll need to know.
Sounds good.
And Jessica, introduce yourself, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Great. My name is Jessica Meza. I am an attorney at Craig D. Johnson and Associates. I've been here a year. Previously, I was a public defender in Pueblo and Adams, Broomfield counties. After that, I worked for an immigration law firm. And so I'm just really interested in this topic. I think a lot of businesses are struggling. And I attended the gala last night and I saw it posted and I thought it would be really interesting to attend. Great.
And thank you for joining and for attending the gala last night. I hope you had a good time. We had a good turnout and we were excited to be able to do that for our members. So we appreciate you joining. So as I mentioned earlier, and by the way, I did remember what our first session was about. It was about HR in the virtual office, the virtual workspace. So, you know, that was a great conversation with Leon Cerna last week about how to maintain your HR and your corporate culture when you've got people working virtually, either whether it's a small team or a large team. That session is still available. If you're interested in that, reach out to me and we can get you a copy of that. It's the same $10 charge that we charge for the live event, but you can rewatch that session. So today we're going to talk about, as we mentioned earlier, pivoting, reimagining your business in the face of a pandemic or another crisis. So Jennifer, if it's okay, I'll start with you, and you can tell us a little bit about School of Rock, you know, how you were before and what you've done to keep teaching your students the art of rock and roll in the middle of a pandemic.
Sure. Okay. Sounds great. I'm going to tell you some general things that we did, and then a little more specifically what we did, and then sort of what the result has been, and then some silver linings that have actually come out of this to my surprise. So as I mentioned earlier, School of Rock is a franchise. So in that sense, I have maybe a little bit of a advantage or an unfair advantage to another small business owner because I have the support of the corporate School of Rock and also all the other owners of the other schools who found themselves in the same position as me. So we could kind of like brainstorm together and really support each other through that. And that has been really super valuable. But having said that, each individual owner also had to make hard decisions based on what was happening in their own schools and in their own communities. And, you know, specifically in Broomfield, that's where I cared the most. You know, it didn't really matter what they were doing down in Denver or in, you know, Colorado Springs or something. Like I really had to look at what's happening in my own student base and just in our local community. So I think that like the three things and maybe possibly four things that I feel like helped the most or kind of got things rolling in the right direction for us were just to act fast. Nobody really knew what exactly to do, but we all knew at about March 11th or 12th that things were going to get ugly and that hesitating probably wasn't a great idea. Keeping the doors open probably wasn't the right thing to do. So just acting fast and then kind of fine-tuning, going back and fine-tuning later if, you know, whether we needed to change what we did was, I think, helpful because it kept us ahead of the game. Also just communication. I feel like once everybody went into like isolation, communication became more important than ever. So that was me communicating with my own staff and really keeping in touch with them and also communicating with our students and the parents and families in our school to make sure they knew what we were doing and they were staying engaged because as you can imagine, people were, you know, the first reaction for a lot of people was to just quit, you know, like, we don't know what's going on. We're going to stop, you know, put everything on hold. And we wanted to try to avoid that as much as we could. And we also kept our online communication really active too, like staying really active on social media. So people knew like, we're here, we're doing stuff. Even though our doors are closed, we're doing something and we're keeping in touch with you. And then for me, I felt like it was really important to follow the news and to, even as depressing as it was, to keep aware of what was going on in our local community and in a broader picture and nationally, so that any decisions that we did make were really in line with like what other places were doing as well. And then the fourth thing that I think was really important for me was just right away we applied for the federal aid. So getting the PPP loan, applying for the EIDL grants, because that, even though I didn't know how bad we were going to be hit, getting that stuff done ahead of time really gave me a lot of breathing room when it finally came in, where I didn't have to worry about payroll or paying bills, because the bills started to increase too. And it just knew like, that's one thing I don't have to worry about at this time, is like that my bank account is gonna like drastically fall, or I'm gonna have to infuse it with personal funds. Like that never happened. And I am actually really grateful that that benefit turned around as quickly as it did. So more specifically, what we did at School of Rock was, you know, it's a music school. So right away we said, we're going to go online. And luckily, online music lessons are pretty standard. Like this was happening even before COVID. So making the move to online lessons was kind of like no big deal, really. We had to get our teachers set up. We had to get the teachers trained. I had to make sure that the teachers had a safe environment and had an environment like that was appropriate for kids to be seeing. You know, it's kind of intimate. Their kids are going into their teacher's home now to do the lesson, and they're seeing stuff. And I had to make sure that everything was like kosher, help the teachers set up good sound and things like that so they could have an effective lesson. So that was step one. And, you know, that was good, but that doesn't really differentiate us from any other of the thousands and, you know, music teachers that all decided to start teaching their lessons online. So School of Rock is performance-based. So much of what we do is putting on shows and putting kids into groups and being in a rock band and putting on a rock concert. And, you know, live music all of a sudden just went like, it disappeared. It's still not back. And so that was the bigger challenge, is like, how do we deliver like the School of Rock experience when we can't have a show and concerts are canceled for the foreseeable future? And that's a really scary prospect. That's what makes School of Rock so special. So we had to pivot for sure. So we took our group rehearsals online. So instead of being able to meet in person in the rehearsal room, we started doing rehearsals online. You can't have kids playing in a band together when they're each sitting in their own bedrooms, though. This is not a possibility right now with technology limitations. So what we did was we asked them to record themselves playing their songs. So each kid recorded themselves playing in their bedroom or in their home studio, and they sent us their recordings, and we put them together into these audio files that we can now distribute. And it's actually super fun to hear yourself playing on a recording with your band. The recordings quality are not great, but this was a huge learning curve for the students. Some of them got really into it, and this is one of the things moving forward that we might stick with, because the process of recording really makes you a better musician. You really have to know your parts very well if you're going to record them. But also it sort of opened this door of like, audio engineering and recording is a whole field and a whole section of the music industry that's really valuable for students to know about and to have an introduction to. So moving forward, we're probably going to continue with some form of recording program. So that was a way to keep the students engaged. Parents knew that like they had assignments, they had stuff they needed to do and a deadline, and there was going to be a final product, which was the audio files. But we also had to figure out how to make a performance, because they signed up for School of Rock because they want to play with a band. This led us into the realm of live stream music. So of course, live streaming suddenly became a huge thing. Facebook Live, every band was going online and doing their, you know, performing in their living room and stuff. And we watched a lot of those to kind of see the varying levels of quality of what was happening with live stream music. And we decided to have our students live stream their shows from a professional studio. So we went to Doghouse Music in Lafayette and we live streamed shows, in small groups where just the band could come in and they could play their show on this very cool looking stage, all mic'd up and broadcast, live on Facebook. And that was, in fact, that was a great way to get them performing. But silver linings of that situation were that now people who could have never seen those kids perform, like their relatives on the East Coast or in other countries, could now all watch it. And also just that experience of being in a live stream performance versus, like live on stage in a venue was so different, but so educational for the kids. And I told them, like, this is what the Rolling Stones have to do right now too. This is any major artist. It's not like we made this up, like this is what people are doing now. So I feel like the students really gained something valuable, and now they kind of know what it means to do a live stream show. And of course, myself and our staff also learned a lot too, because we had never done anything like that before as well. So other things that the School of Rock really helped us with was guest artist sessions. So since everybody was on Zoom, School of Rock used their network of artists, famous people, and started scheduling weekly guest artist Q&A sessions specific for School of Rock students. So our students got to interact with some really well-known artists and some influential people in the music industry. And that was like a super cool opportunity that was thrown together quickly, but also continues now and hopefully will continue beyond COVID. Because again, for the students to have a session where they could sit and ask Steve Vai questions one-on-one was like unreal. I was like, I did not miss that one. That was amazing. So, so stuff like that. And then we also had our teachers do master classes online, which covered a variety of topics. This just kept the kids engaged. Until the point where maybe we started to all suffer a little Zoom fatigue. But it was a way to keep them learning, keep School of Rock at the top of their minds, and introduce things that we would have never had time to talk about before. Our masterclass sessions were like everything from like a session on avant-garde music, which, we would never talk to the kids about that otherwise, and up to things like neoclassical shred metal session, so it's like all over the board. It was really fun. So while all those specific things were happening, we also were preparing to reopen. So everything like buying plexiglass and getting the school professionally cleaned and sanitized and buying up all the cleaning supplies we could find and revamping our schedule and taking a lot of extra precautions for vocalists, because there's a lot of not so great information out there about what happens when you sing in terms of transmitting COVID. So we have had to take some really specific steps to make sure that band members are safe when people are singing. So all of these things kind of got us through the last several months, and we lost quite a few students right off the bat. But by being able to pivot and offer some alternatives that still have a lot of value, we've brought back quite a few students and brought in a lot of new students as well. So where we had dropped down, maybe lost close to 40% of our student base, as of now, like end of August, we're really only down about 15% from where we were in the beginning of March. So I think that's pretty successful. I'm pretty happy with that. I hope this doesn't go on for too much longer, but I think even as we head into like flu season and stuff, if things start to get bad, at least now we kind of have a plan. We know what to do in terms of going online. And now, like I said, even in the wake of all these disappointments, the silver linings of being able to offer recording classes or like to do the live streams or offering online lessons, like there's a lot of potential there. And we're even getting into exploring now video, like making music videos if we can't have live shows for the foreseeable future. So So yeah, I think that's kind of what's been the roller coaster ride over the last 6 months. I think some of the key points for me have just been to really stay flexible. We've also been very generous when we can with our clients. You know, if people are having technology issues or just kids are getting burnt out on Zoom, we'd be very flexible with them and offer them other options, or, you know, like extra lessons where we can, just to let people know that we really appreciate that they've been sticking with us throughout this. I try to stay positive too. I think that's a big important part of this, but not positive to the point where I'm like a Pollyanna, you know, like everybody knows this is not great. So I'm positive with the staff, but there's a few people, of course, that when I start to go down that dark rabbit hole, I can talk to them too, and they can help boost me back up and say, hey, you know, I think it's going to be okay. So that's been important too, to just have a few people to talk to when things aren't looking so great, you know. So I have a couple of staff members in, and my husband has heard enough of me worrying about my business. But, you know, as of right now, we are feeling pretty good. You know, like I said, as long as no more major mishaps come our way in the next several months, and if we can make it kind of through the end of this year and into the realm of when a vaccine is coming, and I feel optimistic that yes, we're going to survive. So
Great.
I think that's my spiel. I hope that wasn't too long.
Nope, that was great. That was great. Thanks, Jennifer. And we will, I want to make time for questions, but we'll, if it's okay, I'll hold questions for our panelists until the end so that we can make sure we get to everybody. So Pete, I'm going to go over to you next, if that's all right with you. And you can tell us a little bit about how you've adjusted on the fly for COVID.
Yeah, and thanks, Jennifer, for speaking first, because I took a couple of notes to refer back to, and it was helpful, really, because the first thing that you said was to act quickly. We were fortunate to be in, I probably shouldn't say it's public, pizza is kind of the toilet paper of the restaurant industry. So people were hoarding it. So the first Friday night that we had when the pandemic hit, I think it was a Wednesday when they did the shutdown. That Friday was the second busiest day we had ever had in our history. Our operation that Friday night was complete pandemonium. We had all our heavy hitters in the store, and it was completely impossible for us to keep up with the volume of business that flooded in our door that first Friday night. So in the name of acting fast, I was the second person to franchise Blackjack Pizza in Colorado. I started with Blackjack as a pizza driver in 1985, and in July of 1987, I opened a store, and I owned 5 different Blackjack pizzas over the course of 17 years. It's where I learned all about pizza, the food, and it's where I learned about pizza delivery operations. So the strange thing about COVID was Infinitus, we have struggled since the beginning. You know, we're 10 years old, and people look at Infinitus, I think, and build a story of, you know, how successful we are, et cetera, but that's because we all know in business, nobody's inside our checkbook, nobody's inside our daily operation. So it's easy to look at something from the outside and make a story up about what's going on in the inside. And the reason that we struggled was because of some faulty vision on my part, where I, number one, did not want to be in the pizza delivery business. So when I left Blackjack and then I was in a direct mail company, my daughter Katie came to me and asked me if I wanted to go back in the pizza business and actually start our own concept. And I said yes, and we did. One of the things I said was, listen, I'll do pizza, but we want to be like Chipotle. So I've always done better when I've had somebody in my sights, right? So somebody to shoot for. So when I was at Blackjack, obviously the organization that I wanted to pit myself on. So think of Bill McCartney and Nebraska. Okay, so Bill McCartney from the Colorado Buffaloes took Nebraska and said, Nebraska is our rival. You know, you couldn't wear red in CU, and did it. And he really built up the program with this rivalry with Nebraska. Well, I really built up the Blackjack program with my rivalry with Domino's. So I've focused really heavily on Domino's and what they did, and I focused on and emulating and then leading in ways that they weren't doing so that I could overtake them. So when we started iPie, I focused on Chipotle actually, because I didn't view iPie as a pizza business as much as I viewed it as a quick casual concept with high, and I actually called it QCC, which is quick casual customization, so that there was super high level of choices of the type of food that you could get. It was quick, it was casual, in the way you go up to the front desk, you order, and then we call your name and get the food. So when we had this QCC concept, I thought to myself, if we make the best pizza, I mean, not maybe the best pizza, but absolutely the best pizza, we won't have to deliver because people will come for the best. They'll get in their car, they'll be motivated to come to your place if you're serving the absolute best food. And while that is true, and it did work to a certain level, it was a mistake for us not to be a delivery company from day number one. I believe that if Infinitus had been a delivery company from November of 2010, that we'd be at 100 stores now. But having said that, it was interesting that our pivot occurred prior to COVID. And there was two specific things that we did that began to set us apart. The first one was we began to go down the delivery path with DoorDash and Grubhub. And so we started that in January for all our businesses. And when we added DoorDash and Grubhub to move our product out, the thing that surprised us the most about DoorDash and Grubhub was we got exposed on their platforms. And so a lot of people who didn't know about our pizza business found out about our pizza business. So the advertising alone from DoorDash and Grubhub, and this started in January, was surprising. It added 10%, right off the bat, it added 10% to our business in January. The second thing we did, and this was a process that we did, and it took us 2 years really to do this as we rolled out 16-inch pizzas. We had people come in all the time, oh, we love your pizza, we love your pizza, we wish you had bigger pizzas. And for simplicity of our operation, we didn't want to add the boxes, we didn't want to add the dough, we didn't want to add the screens, we didn't want to add all the different things that you had to do to add another size line to the pizza business. But we capitulated, and finally, and in January, we actually added 16s to Broomfield. Now, we had added 16s to our operation in the Tivoli a year prior. So Tivoli had been doing 16s for about 18 months. Wheat Ridge, we started adding 16s in November, and then Broomfield, we finally rolled it into Broomfield in January. And what 16-inch pizzas did for Infinitus was raised our ticket average. So where our ticket average before, we were selling a $7 or $8 pizza, one 8-inch individual pizza is 50.24 square inches. One 16-inch pizza is 200.96 square inches. So it's exactly eight 8-inch pizzas. Well, if we're selling an 8-inch pizza for $7.50, if you multiply that times 4, we're selling a 16-inch pizza for $30. Now, in the pizza industry, that's a problem because people look at a $30 pizza and, like you guys sitting here right now, raise your hand if the thought of paying $30 for an extra large pizza causes you to pause at all. Well, it caused a lot of people to pause, but when you do the math, it's exact. So we changed the prices to 3.5 times an 8-inch pizza. So we gave them a half of an 8-inch pizza off the cost. But what it did was it raised our ticket average a lot. And by raising our ticket average, then of course we raise sales, because this is a thing I think that people don't know about business very well, particularly people who are young into it, that there's only 3 ways that you can raise sales in your business. Only 3 ways. There's never been any other. The one is you get new customers. The one is you increase the frequency of your current customers. And the third is you increase the ticket average of your current customers. So let's think about that. You have new customers, frequency, and ticket average, okay? And the things that are easiest to do for you to raise revenue in your business are always frequency and ticket average. The thing that's least effective and most expensive and produces the least return is new customers. Everybody, if you go to businesses, particularly small businesses, they're like, oh, new customers, new customers, new customers. That's what we got to get, new customers. And it's like, no, what you got to do is you got to take care of the customers that you have at a super, super high level. And then you have to encourage them to get back into the store more often. And you've got to encourage them to come spend more money. And so it's all a relationship type of a situation. So we moved to DoorDash and Grubhub. We added the 16-inch pizzas. And then the third thing that we made, and this is the quickness side of it, because the 16-inch pizzas didn't come quickly, and the DoorDash and Grubhub did not come quickly. But when that pandemic hit, we were running a company called MicroWorks Prism Software, which is pizza delivery software. It also can be adapted to a sit-down restaurant, so that's why we were running it. In the background of that MicroWorks software was a delivery module that was matched up entirely to the inside of my restaurant. So when the pandemic hit, I called MicroWorks on Wednesday afternoon, and I said, please turn on my delivery module and teach me how to run the software. Then I called my insurance agent down in Lakewood, and I asked her to put on workman's comp insurance and put on non-owned auto driver insurance for drivers. Then I went to my cooks, and I told my cooks, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to lose your job, or you're going to deliver pizzas. So I immediately had an in-house staff of drivers. And I had 20 years of pizza delivery experience, hardcore. So when the pandemic hit, 12 hours later, Infinitus was transformed into a delivery company on the exact same level as Domino's. So all of a sudden, guess who's in my sights now, who wasn't in my sights prior to this? Of course, it's Domino's. And so now for our company, it's accelerating, actually. So now when we meet and have our meetings, and we meet every store meets every week, and we have our conversations, it's all about how fast are things getting out the door, how fast are things getting in the oven, what's our speed, all these things that are relevant to the pizza delivery industry are now front and center in our company. And I rebelled against this so hard. I really didn't want to do this, and it was a terrible vision mistake on my part. And I regret it, and it's okay. I'm moving on, and we've embraced it now. Now the pivot is continuing, right? Because let me step back one more thing. The other thing is we had these campus stores, Tivoli, Boulder, and we have trailer operations, which was our catering, portable stores, festivals, events, stuff. Tivoli closed. Tivoli was making my house payment, just to be candid about it. Boulder closed. Boulder had just opened 3 weeks before the pandemic, and it immediately closed. Then, because Boulder's on the University Memorial Center in the campus at CU, so both those campus stores closed. The trailer operations closed, okay? We were doing $300,000 a year in mobile operations and catering, and that revenue stream was immediately cut off. Tivoli was doing $500,000 to $600,000 a year. Boulder wasn't doing anything at that point, but it has plenty of an expense stream because we were just a brand new restaurant. Those are expensive to get started. So we lost $800,000 in revenue right off the bat. But the good thing about that was that the staff in Tivoli moved to my Wheat Ridge store, and the staff in Boulder moved to my Broomfield store. And the positive side to that was we had a concentration of people in our stores that were higher quality. So we took the lower performing people in our company, and they lost their jobs. So if you weren't a high performer in our operation, when the pandemic hit and the high performers from the other stores became available into those brick and mortar stores, the low performers lost their jobs, candidly. And so that concentration of intellectual and working capital into our operation in Broomfield and Wheat Ridge really raised the quality of those operations a lot. And so that was super, super important. So the PPP is also really important as well, because when it came in, we weren't forced to use the PPP. Because Tivoli and Boulder shut down, the campuses shut down, they shut down our expenses as well. So we didn't have to continue to pay rent. We didn't have to, it just shut down. So everything shut down. Now, if you're in the restaurant business, like Vipul is, he knows that you close your restaurant or something interrupts your business and you've got about, you may, if you're lucky, have 30 days of cash in the bank to keep an operation going. The cash dries up really quickly in the restaurant industry. And so Tivoli and Boulder's bank accounts both went down to zero really rapidly. And so when the PPP money came in, because Broomfield and Wheat Ridge had been having these pivots prior to the pandemic, and then we added the delivery, those stores, and with the nature, the relationship of consumers to pizza, which meant that across the United States right now, the entire pizza industry is up 30%. So the whole industry is up 30%. Every operator I know, and I know a lot of operators because I'm really gregarious and I make friends with everybody in the pizza business. And so we talk across the board, and there's Facebook pizza groups for owners, and we constantly are in contact and bouncing things off of each other. So the industry's really benefited from the pandemic all across the board. And then our company has been up even more. So there's more lessons to these pivoting things. The second lesson is we're getting ready now for the first time to open a complete ghost kitchen. It's in the works right now. We're in the planning stages right now. What that means is that we will have a kitchen that will have no cash transactions. It will have no carryout. It will have no pickup. It will have no signage. It will have no branding. It will have a computer that will collect the orders and collect the money and spit out the orders to our operations. And it'll have ovens and a make line, and that's it. A cut table, and it'll have drivers. The people won't even, they'll be able to order in our area, and this is coming actually is going to be in Louisville, Lafayette, Superior. It's going to be the service area for this store, and it will operate, and unless you happen to be where the store is, which is going to be in an industrial type area, you won't even know the store exists. You won't be able to find the store. We are going to do the very first ghost kitchen. So imagine this pivot. We've gone from this, we're going to make the best pizza in the world, by golly, and everybody's going to come to us because it's just going to be the best, and they're going to want the best. And we're never going to deliver to, we're going to open a delivery unit, and we don't want anybody to come to us, and nobody's going to even know where our store is. Now, that is a pretty monstrous pivot. And that's all kind of going on right now. Now, the interesting thing, Evelyn, you said something about exit strategy, helping people with exit strategy. That was one of the reasons that I left Blackjack Pizza, because Blackjack Pizza wasn't uniform enough. Their franchise system wasn't activist enough and didn't crack down hard enough and enforce standards at a high enough level when I was in it, that my store was as valuable as it would have been if I had been in a franchise system that was cracking down and making sure that those standards were high. So my exit strategy wasn't what I wanted it to be to get out of Blackjack Pizza. So that's one of the main reasons I left that system back in 2004. Now, I'm not talking bad about Blackjack Pizza, guys. I still love Blackjack Pizza. And I said it publicly, in the whole world on the internet right now just heard it, but it's true. They're in my heart because I spent 20 years there, and you just don't rip something like that out of a person. That was all my formative years in the pizza business. But we're now a completely different company. I mean, we couldn't be more different. The only constant that we have now is our product. The PPP is helping us now because Tivoli and Boulder are open again, and they're both hemorrhaging cash. Neither stores have the customer base that they had. They're doing paltry sales. The amount of staff I have and food that's going out is not covered by the sales, so we're losing money, and that PPP money right now is covering those operations. So we're grateful for that. Otherwise, I don't even know that those stores would be reopened, or if they reopen. I mean, we may close those stores back down again. We don't even know right now because they're so underperforming compared to what it was before, particularly Tivoli. There's another part to this, and I think I'm just going to end with this. So if sales are done by getting new customers, increasing frequency and increasing tickets, how do you increase frequency and how do you increase tickets and how do you get really good about it, you collect data. And if you're in the restaurant business and you aren't data focused, you're behind the curve right now. So that means you collect phone numbers, you collect emails, and if you can figure out how to do it, you collect hard mail addresses, and you collect as much data as you possibly can. The second thing that you have to do after that is, for us, we're big enough now to where we have a singular individual in our company who is focused on that data, essentially. So we have a social media person, and they are leveraging those contacts for us by keeping our content current and by a lot of different ways. But the point is, not to speak specifically about our specific strategies, is collect data, collect emails, collect phone numbers, collect direct mail addresses if you're in the pizza business, or if you're in the restaurant business particularly. And I think this applies to all businesses really, but collect that data, because that data is what allows you to reach back out to your customers when this happens. So when the shutdown hit, we used all our touch points to let people know, hey, we're delivering right here, right now. We have full-time delivery staff going. So we're just like Domino's and Blackjack now. We are in that sphere, and we had to get that message out instantly. And because we're really quality data collectors, we were able to get that information out right away. And it's made, now, you may ask how much of a percentage of our sales is delivery. Wheat Ridge last week, in-house delivery for our staff was 11%. The week before it was 15%. Broomfield runs a lower level percentage of delivery right now, about 9%. So it's not like all of a sudden we became Domino's or Blackjack. We have not. But it was just one of the pieces of the puzzle between the 16-inch pizzas, DoorDash, Grubhub, and delivery. Those pieces coming together is what has combined to drive our business. And the general attitude of pizza towards the consumer public in the United States, we're up over 30% right now because of the pandemic, and our model is completely different. It couldn't be more different than it was pre-pandemic. It's impossible for it to be more different. So with that, I'm going to close.
All right. Thanks, Pete. That was great information. Appreciate that. And Vipul, last but certainly not least, you've got a great story about a pretty major pivot yourself. So why don't you tell us your story?
Sure. So first I will start off saying that we started as a ghost kitchen. You know, like almost 18 years ago, we started in a commissary, and commissary is a ghost kitchen because, you know, people don't know about your kitchen. You share a kitchen space with many other businesses, and you rent out space when we started in Denver Enterprise Center, which closed down, but they offered us an opportunity by renting the kitchen on an hourly basis. You know, that's how we started. We were paying $20 an hour at that time, like 2003. And that's how we slowly built our company. And when we got this opportunity to move into this building where we are at in December 2014, we got our own big kitchen. We have almost 3,000 square feet of kitchen space. And we have this beautiful venue and that's when we opened Copperleaf Event Center. So the gourmet kitchen opened in 2003, Copperleaf 2014. And so it was an extension of our existing business, basically catering and venue. So that helped us. So in 2014, from 2014 to this year, we were like 3 times the revenue almost, you know. And this year was looking good. You know, we are thinking, oh, we already have hit 60% of revenue of last year. And like in terms of bookings and what is on the books and what we have already sold, and things were looking good. And then in mid-March, we realized that, okay, you know, COVID is really happening. So we canceled our cruise. We are going to go on a cruise in end of March. I'm glad I didn't do that. And then, you know, at that time, I thought that we will be recovering by July, So if we did everything right as a nation, we will have a real opportunity to get back by July, but that did not happen. And I do agree with both of the speakers before me that I did not waste any time getting the PPP loan. I also got the grant from the Broomfield, City of Broomfield. And I also got loan from SBA, basically, which I haven't yet dipped into, but probably I will have to in a couple of months, because in a restaurant business, it consumes a lot of cash. So when we realized in June that we have lost all the business, it was almost like we lost $1 million of business, and overnight, literally, like we went from supposedly having, a very good year to nothing. Weddings getting canceled, moved to next year, or corporate catering not happening. We at our venue, we have, people use this for corporate as well, right? So we have space for conferences. So conferences got canceled. Just literally everything. So in June, we realized that, and before June, actually, let me trace back a little bit. We said, okay, let's try delivery and pickup as a catering company. So we started doing that. We started doing, we had good days, like Easter was good, Father's Day, Mother's Day, okay, good. But beyond that, nothing, when it comes to food, people don't think of catering companies. When you're going out to eat, unless it's a event, which was no events were happening, literally we had almost zero sales. Okay, there's a fan base who will order from you on a regular basis, but you can't survive from that, basically. So in June, we realized that catering cannot keep us afloat. Venue cannot keep us afloat. So that's when the idea of Roots came around. And so as a catering company, we are known as providing eclectic food. We are experts in multicultural and fusion cuisine. What that means is that we offer people, if they are looking for authentic cultural cuisine, we will provide that. If they're looking for something which is not tied to any particular cuisine, we also do that, right? So that's what our brand is. So Roots had to be that. So we just continued with that branding in Roots. Roots Restaurant provides, that multicultural, eclectic cuisine to people. But what we also provide is, which we didn't realize when we opened, is a space which almost no one has in Broomfield. We have so much space outdoors where people feel safe. When they come out to eat, there's a patio, there's lawns, there's gazebo. There's also indoor space if they want to, if it's too hot for them to sit outside. So I think we did not know the potential, I guess, of the restaurant when we opened it. And it has been overwhelming for us. So we are purposely throttling our growth, because last week, it was our 6th week, we reached 350 people dining in. This week, we could easily reach 500 people. We are looking at probably, if we went full throttle, we probably could be feeding 1,000 people in 2 months per week. But we are not yet there, because a restaurant, it's a totally different, even though it's food business, if catering is food, restaurant is food, restaurant is just totally different way of thinking and doing business. Margins are much lower in restaurants. It's too much work for too little money, versus catering and venue. If I booked a private event, 100 people wedding, I will do it in a heartbeat, because I know for less people and less costs, I can make more margins. But that's where the pivot is. If you think about it, we are not only a catering company, which will return, right? So people will start doing catering. We are doing a wedding actually this Sunday. So we can still do weddings, events. We have this restaurant that provides us a regular source of income, which we didn't have. With catering, you always had to do sale. With wedding, you always have to do sale. You have to have a few full-time salespeople who are always selling. But with restaurant, you don't need to. You only market. You just, the only dollars you're spending are marketing, which is much, much cheaper than having full-time staff that's trying to sell your business, because events is a longer sales cycle. It's not like restaurant where you need instant gratification. Oh, I want to eat and I want to eat now. So now it has given us one more revenue stream. So we have a regular revenue stream through restaurant. We have catering, plus we also have a venue, which we can decide, okay, this day, because we have a private event, we will not have a restaurant open. We will just do the private event. So that's what we did. And I think it was a blessing in disguise, I will say. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of learning. That's what I'm glad about. I'm learning so much as part of the restaurant business that I never imagined I would. And we used to say we'll never open a restaurant. And then I tell people, never say never, because you never know when you will do what you didn't want to do. Yeah, I guess that's what I have to say, and is also playing on your strengths. So it's always easier to build what you already have versus trying to do something new. We already know events, we already know food, we already know catering. So restaurant was the closest thing that we could apply our strengths and knowledge in, basically. So that's what we ended up doing. So that's it from me.
Great. Well, Vipul, thank you so much. And I'll put in my personal recommendations to all three of our presenters today. I've seen School of Rock perform. They are phenomenal. And if you haven't ever had Pete's Pizza over there at iPie, make sure that you get that pizza, because it is incredible. Yeah, Pete, you're definitely beating down Domino's door. Absolutely. We had the pleasure of doing a ribbon cutting for Vipul for Roots Restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and the food is phenomenal. Just really great stuff. I had never had grilled watermelon before, and it was a revelation. So, so thank you all for presenting today, and congratulations on what you're doing and continue to do. And I'll open it up for questions that folks might have. I saw people taking some notes. So anybody have any questions for any of our presenters today?
Well, three awesome stories. What great minds all three of you have, and how open you are to be able to act fast and make the changes that you need to make. I'm very impressed, and I've probably worked with 25, 30 clients over the last 5 months with these interesting times that we're under. And most of them could not move as quickly as you did. So congratulations to all of you. A question for Vipul. So how are you going to handle the winter? Right now, you have a restaurant that you can seat people outside, which is awesome. And both you and the pizza place are on my list. But how are you going to handle the winter?
So I have thought about it many times too. So it will be, we will probably have to, I'm sitting in my patio, we'll probably figure out a way to cover it up so that people can still enjoy outdoors. It will be cold, but we'll have heaters, and we will have, so that people can stay warm outside. But then we also, by that time, we are hoping in a couple of months we'll have built enough clientele that they will order food to go from us. Even now, like we purposely are not doing delivery because we are still trying to handle all this growth that's happening. We had to rearrange our kitchens so that it works like a restaurant. You know, in catering, you don't think in terms of lines, but in restaurant, you have to think in terms of lines. Or you have the hot line, or you have the cold line, or whatever, right? So we had to make those changes. And just like Pizza Pete, I don't want to give my money to Grubhub and, you know, other these providers because they take a lot, you know. Ours is not an easy food, you know. It's not like you can hire some low skilled workers and they can make food for you. We have to hire, we have highly paid employees in each and every operation. So if we go towards delivery, it will have to be our employees, and we'll have to do it because I can't afford to give that much margin to people. Going back to your thing, yeah, we have to increase our customer base so that we can continue delivering and pick up of our food.
Great, thank you very much.
You know, I had one thing that rang through all three of our presentations today was, and I made this note, not being afraid to take chances. You know, we had our first, you know, larger event yesterday. We were talking about it as this call started. We had our 60th anniversary celebration last night, and that was an exercise in taking chances, and thinking outside the box, and trying to think of new ways to have a networking and celebration event in a safe environment. And so I appreciate that. And what I got from Jennifer and Pete and Vipul all was that you were not afraid to either face your own prejudices or misconceptions about your business, and B, you were willing to take a chance and see if you could find something that sticks. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, and also what happens is when you start doing something, you get more avenues and more ideas, right? So when we opened Roots, now we already are thinking about consolidating everything into one brand, which will be Roots, you know, because it can be Roots Restaurant, it can be Roots Catering, it can be Roots Venue. So instead of spending our energy on 3 different businesses, you know, you're spending your marketing dollars that way. You know, your energy is split into 3. We can now combine everything into just one business. So that we're already thinking about that. You know, when we started with our, you know, to go and orders and whatnot with catering, we're already thinking about selling our spice mix. You know, we already have a spice mix and a chutney. So other thing that happened with Roots was, as a catering company, in 18 years, we have only 95-star Google reviews, right? With Roots, we already have more than 40 in like 6 weeks. We have more than 1,000 followers in 6 weeks. With catering, we have reached 2,000 like only recently, and that too, 600 out of those 2,000 we achieved because we started doing to-go deliveries. You know, restaurants are just a massive upgrade when it comes to recognition. You know, people know restaurants much more than catering. So I never realized that.
One of the things that I know about entrepreneurs that struggle is they analyze too much. I see paralysis by analysis, and I see people who don't take chances. They think about it and they try and think their way through stuff to get to the perfect solution before they pull the trigger. Now, I'm personally quite the opposite of that, and accused of it, and accurately so, that I'm a ready, shoot, aim person. So I'm busy slapping spaghetti against the wall constantly, and some of it sticks and some of it doesn't stick. But my analysis, a lot of my analysis comes from what sticks and what doesn't stick when I throw it against the wall. That's just the way it goes. So this ghost restaurant that we're getting ready to pull the trigger on, This came to me 2 days ago, and within 30 minutes, I knew we were going to do this. I didn't analyze it. I didn't think about it. I didn't, what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and what about this? Forget it. We're going to do this. And it may be great, and it may not be great. I think it's going to be great, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. But there's a possibility that it won't be what I envisioned, and I'm going to throw money at it. So it's not like I'm just throwing a little $5 package of cooked pasta against the wall. I'm throwing a pack of money at this, and I think we're going to be fine. And I think it may end up kind of at some level being part of the future of our company, but it is a super different. Can you imagine Domino's opening with no branding, no storefront? Couldn't go into the Domino's, wouldn't know where the Domino's was. All you'd know is that you went online, ordered your Domino's pizza, paid online, and it showed up. And you never had any contact with that unit. And how would that make you feel as a consumer, by the way? I'm kind of curious about the answer to that question, if anybody wants to venture an answer to that.
I think as a consumer, I don't care. As long as I get it on time and the quality is good, and it says that it's coming from iPie, how do I care which store it's coming from? It doesn't matter. Like as I said, we started from a ghost kitchen. Commissary is a ghost kitchen. And we grew even in spite of that, because people only cared about how the food was, how the service was, what the connection was with the salesperson, So I don't think it matters, really.
Well, you mentioned, Pete, that you're expanding this to really serve the consumers in Superior, Louisville, Lafayette, those areas. So these people, I assume, may have heard of you before and been to one of the iPie stores at some point. And, it seems to me, I've heard from a lot of people that they're bummed that they can't get delivery from you, that they do have to make a trip to you. So there has to almost be some semblance of marketing at some point, an introduction to the company and the product in order for them to even know about it, to order it. But I think what you're doing, once people you have that following, once people know about the product and how awesome it is, they don't know if they're ordering from the Broomfield store or the Boulder store or the Wheat Ridge store or wherever. As long as they're getting the product, they don't care. It's a great opportunity to be able to expand, to deliver to those consumers who they're not able to make the trip because they have kids at home right now that they're educating, or they're doing their jobs at home and they're stuck at home. They're not packing up the kids to take them to Broomfield, So I think it's awesome, but there still has to be some sort of introduction to the product.
No, that's not a problem. I got that one marked. But the other side too is the cost of capitalization of a unit is, it drives it down. It makes it so cheap to open a unit. Like this is going to be and I've built some pretty frugal stores before. I've been doing this a long time, so I've got pretty good experience. And the cost of this unit is going to be by far the cheapest store I've ever built. Of the 9 stores, I built 9 stores. Of the 9 stores I built, this store is going to blow away in cost of capitalization any store that I've ever done, which is amazing.
Just the storefronts themselves. You say storefront, you think retail. Just in real estate alone, that's a huge X factor, that the price goes up significantly. Then you're able to hop into industrial spots that there are some businesses that are closing in those areas, and there are opportunities to be had for that space. So I think it's a fabulous idea. It makes so much sense. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Jennifer, I had a question for you. How is it? You mentioned you've obviously made a lot of changes to your education structure and your performance structure. What has been the most surprising thing to you about how about the changes you've made or how they've been received? What's the one unexpected, really great thing that you've noticed?
I'll be honest, the thing that comes to my head first when you say that is in the growth in our adult program. So we've made all these changes, and we've all of a sudden made like the music lessons more convenient to people who are really stretched on time. And we've picked up a lot of adult students or parents maybe who now have a window into what their students' lesson looks like, and they're seeing it and they're saying, well, I kind of want to do that, you know. So our adult program has grown quite a bit, and once those people are starting to take lessons and stuff, then we start talking to them about joining a band, and our adult band program is bigger now than it was before. And that's been really cool because it really, a lot of those adults are parents of our current students. It just creates more of a community, and where right now we're a little bit challenged in maintaining that sense of community, because even if we're in person, we're wearing masks, the numbers of people allowed at a time are lower, but then at the same time, we have more families participating. So I think when I look at just the bigger picture, I kind of see something there where like, people think of us as a place for kids, but there's so much we have to offer for adults.
Yeah,
That's
Jennifer, my wife Carolyn has been teaching piano for 25 years and has a studio at her house and kids coming in, and she went, all but 2 students went online for the piano thing. So the biggest challenge she had was actually the super young ones, 7, 8, 9 years old.
Yeah.
Their ability to sit still and concentrate online is not what the older kids were more successful at that than the younger ones. So she really struggled. And personally, for my wife, when those children started coming back to our house, she was much happier.
Yeah, I think nothing can replace that in person. And same for us. The younger kids have been much slower to come back, but at the same time, we've seen an increase in older students who sort of enjoy the opportunity to be able to just do a lesson from home. So, but I have a question for you, Pete. Did I understand correctly that you're not working with Grubhub and DoorDash anymore? Like, is that not?
Oh no. And so here's another thing. This is for you, Vipul. When we did DoorDash and Grubhub, we specifically asked them, can we increase our prices above our menu prices to cover the percentage that they're going to take? And they said yes. They said, you charge what you want to charge through us. So we bumped our prices immediately so that we wouldn't get hit by their percent. We don't care about their percentage because we just tacked it onto the tickets. And so people pay stupid amounts of money for our pizzas that they don't have to pay if they get in their car and come see us, or they're out of the area and they want our pizza so bad that they're willing to pay the 20 or 30% premium, whatever was negotiated on top of it all. No, we're still using them 100%. As a matter of fact, so that's been another thing, is that one of the problems with those operations is that we have, our phones are ringing. People are coming in the door, they're standing at the register in front of us and the phone's ringing. We're like, and then the tablet is going off behind us. Oh, you've got a Grubhub order, you've got a DoorDash order, ring, ring, ring. So the tablet's going off, the phone's going off, the customers are standing in front of us. So we're trying to manage all this stuff. And you have to turn around and grab that tablet, the employee does, turn around, grab that tablet, look at the order, put it into the POS system to get it all into the system. Well, that takes time and it's prone to inaccuracy. So if an employee puts in something wrong, he misses something, he puts in the wrong toppings from the tablet that he's reading, doesn't do it right, then we have a customer on DoorDash or Grubhub that gets something wrong, or so that's part of it. Or that, like we had this in our meeting yesterday, one of the Grubhub drivers came in to our Wheatridge store, he had 11 items on his ticket. The manager knew he had 11 items. The oven person knew he had, everybody's telling him, you've got 11 items, and the items might be San Pellegrino, might be one item, and a wings, and a whatever. It was a big order. He had 11 items. You can't control that employee, and candidly, where he's smoking pot while he's out delivering pizzas or whatever it is that he's doing, you don't know. And so he went out with an incomplete order. So then, 45 minutes later, Grubhub and DoorDash don't get the phone call. We get the phone call. Hey, man, blah, blah, blah. You know, we didn't get whatever we ordered from DoorDash or Grubhub. You know, what's wrong with your company? So there's some pitfalls with those things. Our POS company is a really strong POS company, and they have a thing called Lockdown. I don't know what the name of it, the branding of it is, but what it will do is it will actually route all the DoorDash and Grubhub orders directly into our POS system. If we can, and that would cost us, so we call it, my daughter Katie and I refer to these as business termites. And we have lots of termites that just love to chew away at the bank account. And this termite is $1,800 a year for this particular termite. But for $1,800 a year, if I no longer had to worry about the tablet going off in back of us, whether it's getting in accurately and a timely and all that stuff, it'll make things a lot smoother in our operation for us. So we don't use Uber Eats, and Uber Eats is bigger than DoorDash or Grubhub. And we don't use them right now. We haven't used them. We use Postmates, DoorDash, and Grubhub. Uber Eats came and made us an aggressive offer. So we want to employ Uber Eats, but my daughter said no. My daughter's the president of the company, and she said, no, we're not going to do it because we can't handle another distraction in our operations right now of trying to put in another tablet. But if we get the situation set up where we've got that termite that's handling all those orders and they're just going into, and we eliminate all the tablets. The orders come from Grubhub, DoorDash, just like any other web order that we get to our website. It just goes right into our POS like they do from our website. Then, yeah, we're going to add Uber Eats as well. We'll continue to be very aggressive about those services because of the exposure on their platforms as far as marketing is concerned, and because of the hard dollars that they bring into the operation and sales.
Awesome. Any other questions for our panelists today?
So what you could do is, have you looked into Chowly or Chow Now? Because they automate that. It's called Chowly or Chow Now.
Our POS company has a branded product within the POS company that
because they route everything into your POS is what I'm trying to say automatically. The situation you have right now.
Right. So right. That's what we're looking at adding that expense to allow that to happen.
That's much. That's not 18. That's much cheaper. I don't know why they're charging $1,800 a year, but.
All right.
I'll come by and see you, Vipul. You can show me.
So what I'd like to do before we wrap up today is just in 60 seconds or so for each of our panelists, try and give us one tip for anybody who's watching or might be listening to this on the recording later on. If you could give one 60-second piece of advice to another business owner that's facing issues and needing to reimagine or pivot their business, what would that be? And I'll start with Jennifer.
Put me on the spot here. I think the biggest piece of advice I would, and since I'm more of a service-oriented business, is to just remain flexible and remember those are real people who are your customers, and hopefully they'll treat you like you're a real person. But by being flexible and by being generous, understanding that these are weird times, people will be gracious with you if you're gracious with them. We've been very relaxed about some of the policies that in the past were hard policies. A lot of that has gone out the window so that we can really maintain those relationships and people trust us. And so hopefully they'll stay, because as Pete said too, it's harder to bring in a new customer than it is to just maintain the customers that you already have. And we are so grateful to them. We want them to know that we appreciate them. So the name of the game for us has just been like, stay flexible and, be nice to everyone.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. Vipul, I'll go to you next. What would be your one 60-second piece of advice?
This too will pass. This is just a phase. Just think of it as a learning opportunity. Just trust your instincts, trust your knowledge, and be confident that whatever you do, you will come out of it richer. And richer does not necessarily mean money always, right? It's that experience that you get, that knowledge that you get, that will make you a better person. So yeah, I always, more than money, I always think in terms of, you know, how am I growing as a person out of any situation? That's my take on it.
Thanks, Vipul. Pete, what would be your
I would
60
say
second?
act decisively, collect data, and focus on the relationship. So in my store, I'm on the floor. I'm in that store a lot. I'm talking to people. I'm shaking hands. I'm genuinely passionate about people, about loving people, and about providing people with a fantastic experience. And that starts with my staff.
Great. Fantastic. Well, thank you all again so much. This was a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate all of these experiences and perspectives, and I hope that our attendees got a lot out of it as well. And again, it'll of course be available on a recording for other folks to listen to later. I did want to mention real quickly that we do have another education session coming up next Thursday, September 3rd. That will be a session that will be talking about the Gallagher Amendment and its impact in the state. And there is a motion, a possible motion for a repeal of the Gallagher Amendment. We'll be talking about how that will impact business, all of those things. So Reeves Brown, I'm sorry, will be our main presenter for that one. And again, that's the same time next Thursday, September 3rd. And you can register for that through the Chamber of Commerce, Broomfield Chamber of Commerce website. Again, thank you to all of our folks, School of Rock, iPie, and Roots Restaurant. We really appreciate your time today and your insight and your expertise. And thank you all again. Thank you to our attendees, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, everyone else.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.